There are two very sad facts we need to acknowledge before getting on with the topic of this video. The first is that by and large, most people on Earth are ignorant, confused, and insane. Every founder of every new society recognizes this problem because it is the impetus for creating that new society. In their ignorance, confusion, and insanity, the general people of Earth steal, cheat, murder, rape, blackmail, suppress, terrorize, and so much more. To control this problem and prevent risks to their safety, the architects of various societies capture and enslave these people. The enslaved and their descendants are programmed with propaganda and taught lies so that they effectively waste their lives spinning around in circles and prove no threat to their rulers. It is here we face a hard truth. If people will not govern themselves, if they will not demonstrate self control and conduct themselves peacefully and honorably, they will be governed by others without their consent, out of necessity. It is simply karmic law and balancing in action, and it must be this way so that they can learn what to do and what not to do with respect to the ways of peace and morality. Don't believe me? In Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Code, the first definition, it states that the words insane and insane person shall include every idiot, insane person, and person non compos mentis. Of all possible concepts that could have been defined first, why was this one prioritized? The second sad fact is that people misunderstand democracy. They think it is about the will of the majority. But democracy just means rule by the people, as in the body of the nation gets to manage the society. That does not necessarily imply majority rule. It is possible for the majority to be wrong about something and take their society down a harmful path, especially if they are ignorant, confused, and insane. The majority rule style of democracy as humanity is used to is nothing more than a very simple way of attempting democracy, and it has problems. These systems devolve into tyrannies because they have no understanding of what causes a tyranny in the first place, and therefore lack the design patterns required to mitigate it. In Percival's book, Democracy is Self-Government, we start with the definition of democracy that is based around strength of character. This definition grants the society the ability to scale peacefully when the population is properly developed. It is no surprise that with a lack of proper education, democracy fails. The same holds true in reverse. With proper education, democracy thrives. I will read for you the cover blurbs of Percival's book. Throughout our world history, many countries have faced a crisis in governing their affairs. Oftentimes, lawlessness and uncivilized behavior has followed. Whenever guiding principles become corrupted, a penetrating message is needed to answer the call for justice and moral law to prevail. Democracy is self-government, is such a message. In this book, a light is turned on the most absorbing and pressing problems of humanity, which are reflected in all aspects of life, including our government. Through a series of essays, the author addresses what can and must be done to solve these problems by bringing national affairs under the spotlight of eternal truths. This is not a political book, as generally understood. It is a new conception of true democracy, where the emphasis is on the direct relationship between each individual and the worldly conditions in which we live. Once this direct link between the conduct of each and every one of us and the effectiveness of our government is fully realized, mindfulness of our thoughts and actions will follow. Ideas of social and political perfection seem to hold a strong attraction for many human beings, and yet they are seldom, if ever, achieved. We might ask ourselves, why? Mr. Percival makes clear that the only avenue through which we can achieve an enlightened civilization is to first become individually self-governed. Self-government means just that we learn to govern our own desires, thoughts, and actions because, virtuous or otherwise, They collectively make up our external world. This means that all conditions that we encounter in the world have their beginnings within us through the power of our thinking. If honesty, good judgment, and strength of character are desired in government affairs, then these qualities must first be operating within ourselves. Since each human being is the source of all causes, conditions, problems, and solutions, we cannot look to others to make things right for us. Adherence to a higher form of law is not just in the hands of the governing few. Our own individual behavior has a far reaching effect on all governing systems. If we feel in accord with this statement, we will want to learn to govern ourselves. It will then become the moral obligation of each of us to refine his or her conduct to ever higher ideals. Humanity will be the beneficiary of this effort. And a bit more from Percival himself. Self-government of the individual, when extended to the people of the country, is democracy. With rightness and reason as authority from within, the people will elect as their representatives to govern them only those who practice self-government and who are otherwise qualified. When this is done, the people will begin to establish a genuine democracy, which will be the government of the people for the greatest good and benefit of all the people as one people. Such democracy will be the strongest kind of government. Democracy as self-government is what people of all nations are blindly seeking. No matter how different or opposed their forms or methods seem to be, genuine democracy is what all people inherently want because it will allow them most freedom with greatest opportunity and security. This is all about scaling character because that is what drives a society to develop into a civilization that peacefully explores the stars or one that blows its atmosphere. A triune democracy is a society built for these people. It is for those who want self governance and those who want to explore the stars peacefully. It takes advantage of the latest and greatest in human knowledge, from philosophy and psychology to consciousness and spirituality to law and justice, with system science and best practices relating to processes and the architectures of new systems. All of these efforts are directed into a system that assists a self-governing people make the best society they can for themselves. A triune democracy is a stepping stone. It plugs into the world of today to get us from where we are today and who we are today to that more ideal form of civilization 1,000 or 10,000 years from now. Our descendants, having been raised in a more proper and enlightened way, will be qualified to decide what to do next at that juncture. But we need to take that first step on this long journey. And we need to understand that inasmuch as we can talk about an ideal, we still have to get there. That means working with what we have, building on what works and what does not work, and taking conscious steps to make sure we do not fall into tyranny. We will now look at how a triune democracy prevents devolution into tyranny within its society. First, we need to recognize that there are those who are sane and those who are insane, those who know themselves and those who do not, those who advocate for peace and those who advocate for war, those who show good stewardship and do business with immunity, and those who do not. Everything has its opposite, and we work with a bigger picture here. We also ought to recognize that right decisions are efficient decisions, which is to say that following the path of rightness is the most efficient path possible for a civilization. Wrong decisions, which are those that will result in harm, invoke karmic law and create a balancing effect in the universe for the society to experience. As a consequence, the society will be forced to spend unnecessary time, money, and resources rectifying the harm. Whereas if the society held to right decisions, then no such expense is required, and the society can move more nimbly, efficiently, and progressively towards its goals. A triune democracy does not make assumptions about the quality of people in its system. It does not trust anyone. The people can be sane or insane. they are treated equally by the system and their proposals are met with the same considerations. All proposals must go through the Office of Reason and the Office of Rightness. The Office of Reason examines the proposal to determine how reasonable it is, how it might be implemented, and to map out and index all thoughts and their laws that are applicable to the proposal. The indexing of thoughts is used to build a mental map of the thoughts in play before they become reality, which the Office of Rightness will use to chart a course for the proposal. Think of a proposal as a combination of thoughts arranged in a certain way. Some are combined, some are conceptual groups, and some are isolated. Each are related to each other according to the desires of the proposal. Each individual thought has its pairs of opposites, and each pair of opposites has a right way and a wrong way it can be expressed. There are a great many combinations and permutations of these possibilities to examine in any one proposal. The Office of Reason builds a matrix that maps out these possibilities and delivers it to the Office of Rightness. The Office of Rightness tests the desires of the proposal expressed as a possibility matrix created by the Office of Reason to determine which paths through the matrix cause no harm. Harm would be any proposal which would cause injury to the people, the environment, animals, trading partners, or other nations. It ensures that of all possible ways in which a proposal could be implemented, only those which do not invite a balancing effect on the society are pursued, so that the society can continue to own its destiny. Here, I'd like you to think that a society choosing wrong decisions could make it a slave to its destiny. Maintaining freedom is also about avoiding unfortunate destinies, much like avoiding a waterfall on a river, only it is with time and reality itself as the cumulative total of everyone's actions becomes a kind of accounting. The Office of Rightness can use many methods at its disposal to find the way, some easier than others, including running real-life simulations in dedicated zones with the consent of the participants. There is a time faculty associated with our rightness part, and so the Office of Rightness can use time to find the answer. This processing should yield a minimum of 2 paths through the matrix that are exactly opposite to each other in every way. In fact, it might even be n times 2 or 2n squared, where n is the number of thoughts. To help narrow down the set of right possibilities to a desirable one to implement, additional data is collected from the environment and from consulting with the people, and further refinements to the proposal are made with the assistance of the author. When there are only 1 to a few desirable right paths to implement, the proposal has matured and goes to the Council of Witness. The Council has a representative function in a Triune Democracy. It is staffed with the best men and women from each representation group, where each representation group could be defined as a race, a region, a great house, or any other method. How they choose a man and woman to send to council is left up to their self-determination. Effectively, this allows a secondary governmental system to plug into the main Triune Democratic system, creating democracy in 2 dimensions. The Council examines the right proposal passed before it against the interests of their people and the general direction they want to take the society. This is a final check on the rightness or wrongness of a proposal. The Council operates through unanimous consent, and given that proposals that make it to Council have been filtered for rightness, it should not be too much of a blocker. The processing that the offices of Reason, Rightness, and Council do guarantee that no proposal can result in infrastructure, program, or policy that would place the society in a tyrannical position. It is not possible, for example, for forced lockdowns, quarantines, or bioweapon campaigns to be implemented in the society to the government. Triune democracies are very good at detecting, aligning, and working with universal law and do not succumb to ideological influence nor errant thinking. In the event of infiltration, Triune democracies have built-in mechanisms to thwart enemy action. The system design has each office performing a singular function, complex though it may be. The definition of acceptable output is very simple, and deviations from that will raise red flags. Furthermore, the Office of Identity periodically scans the system to look for corruption. That office has the ability to dismantle any office it finds as corrupt and rebuild it. This capability follows a best practice when architecting systems that each component of a system should be able to be swapped out with another of the same kind. Thus, new offices and new implementations of those offices can replace old and infiltrated offices without breaking the system. To prevent corruption at high levels, there is also a rock, paper, scissors dynamic between the Office of Identity, the Council of Witness, and the Emperor or Paragon. This dynamic prevents someone from taking control of the system at the top and ruling by decree and forcing the system into a tyranny. At this level, the development and refinement of each of their characters is very strong, and they have the ability to evaluate each other to determine if their being is in proper working order, if they are in perdition, thinking with attachment, acting under influence of blackmail or bribery, under influence of parasites, or are putting self over service. Any of these conditions could be considered corruption and cause for removal from the system. Triune democracies are very serious about keeping corruption out of the system because that is the first thing that causes a breakdown into tyranny. Inasmuch as fancy systemic features can be utilized to prevent tyranny, the most important thing is the development of the people. Their best thinking brings them to their destiny, for better or worse. That is why a triune democracy is modeled after the proper operation of our beings at a base functional level, so that all who watch the system operate can see how they work and attempt to repair any damage they have and develop themselves out of insanity. Mass mental health repair is a cure for tyranny, and a triune democracy attempts to bring about that cure through passive inspiration. The development of a strong character with a properly functioning being that has been repaired of all damage places one among the sane. The lack of this development and the necessary outcome of mental damage places one among the insane. Some implementations of triune democracies can optimize their system by only accepting proposals from the sane, and thereby only counting the sane among the sovereignty. It is unfortunate that this effectively creates a class divide, but it cannot be helped, for it is a consequence of the laws that guide human development. There are tiers to human thinking. For the insane, which at present is most people, life in a triune democracy will be like life in any other country, only a triune democracy will not try to kill or harm you, and in fact does help you out with tools you need to fix your problems. Due to the way in which a triune democracy works, you will not be under the rule of thousands or even millions of petty dictators, or even smart or ruthless dictators. It is a system designed to support mass sovereignty and mass self sovereignty in the context of a state. The system collates, groups, and filters all those desires into a final proposal that is actually beneficial to the society, with options to veto and reject at multiple points in the process. Strong character development cannot be forced on the people because doing so violates the precepts that define good character and, in and of itself, creates a kind of tyranny. Thus, a triune democracy avoids the tyranny of the philosopher king by not enforcing strong character on the people. It is only required as a qualification for serving in government. Finally, this is a human powered system which requires precise and advanced thinking abilities among its people to perform well. It will encourage people to develop those abilities in the processing of proposals and thereby create a selection pressure for better thinkers. Nature itself is thus used to uplift. If you liked this presentation and would like to learn more about its content at a deeper level, make your way to unlivingbook.com to download a free copy of our book, Unliving Mental and Noetic Crimes Against Humanity. Originally designed to be an anti manipulation and cure for mind control book, it also happens to be a good character development book due to the things you must do to ward off manipulation attempts. It scales those lessons up to the societal level and thereby provides a solid foundation upon which to build a society, solve political problems, and qualify its leadership. This is the book that developed the character triad and triune democracy. If you liked this presentation and would like to learn more about Triunia, make your way to triunia.country to explore our website and see what we have so far. We see the problems everyone is facing. We do not believe these problems can be solved under current frameworks and systems, so we're building a new kind of society, state, and eventually country to better address the new world and serve humanity under the principles of natural law and self determination. Building a new society is a blank slate, and we literally need everything, so there are opportunities abound. Would you like to be part of a consciously built society aimed at lifting its people up to ever higher heights through better thinking, personal responsibility, and appropriate challenges? Consider joining up to secure your freedom. Self determination is a completely legal and honorable approach to solving conflicts, escaping tyrannical policies, and changing your circumstances.